Here we go. Hi, we're back. Okay, so then as a result of her studies and measuring the viral loads and CD4 counts, Dr. Ironson went so far as to state that the belief in a benevolent God and feeling supported and taking action in relationship to and embracing benevolent God is associated with a positive immune response. And the reverse is true for feeling abandoned by God, a negative immune response in that case. So I wanted to go through a series of steps based on an essay that I wrote that I submitted to sojourners.net, sojo.net. American secularism and now Western civilization secularism based on modern democratic government and the American model is related to a strategy of secularism that was started by Thomas Jefferson in the separation of church and state, the freedom of religion, the civil rights of freedom of expression and freedom of religion, and so on, in which Jefferson himself, secularism itself was done as a tolerance, a strategy of tolerance, to create tolerance amongst denominations within Christianity and amongst religions, whether the Jewish or I guess they had some concept maybe of the existence of the Hindu religions in particular. Native American religions, of course, weren't actually legalized until the 1970s, 1978, as I recall. And anthropology wasn't developed in its perspectives, or began developing during the 19th centuries, which is an important angle as well. So, so then Jefferson then, that was the meaning of secularism in terms of the separation of church and state and the freedom of religion. Jefferson's own personal take, at least before he became a president, is an interesting study, and I guess really would be good to look at on its own as a subject. So he was a deist. He was a Christian as a deist. He was accused of being an atheist and responded by clarifying his position on Jesus and called Jesus the greatest moral teacher of all time, except that Jefferson didn't endorse or subscribe to the miracles attributed to Jesus. So, that's rationalism. So Jefferson's position then might be called deist rationalism, deist Christianity, deist rationalist Christianity. Now, looking at getting a little bit of perspective historically, we start to look at the psychosocial and cultural components that are involved with the forming of people's beliefs, like Thomas Jefferson's. Rationalism was part of the whole scientific revolution and the Enlightenment, and was involved in emphasizing personal effort in educational pursuits through the university or independently, right? Which was really the case for Jefferson in many ways. And the personal effort, though, then represents an actual kind of revival of a practice, and a specifying of a practice that was ultimately associated with the rise of the universities from the Christian monasteries and cathedral schools. And one way to look at that in a perspective, in a larger chronological perspective, has to do with St. Augustine, who said, "I cannot sin, I cannot not sin," was what St. Augustine said. I cannot not sin. Right? Something related to the original sin idea. And then Luther with, "by grace alone." So this emphasis on God's action and God's role in achieving salvation, however that's conceived. St. Augustine in particular was opposed to a monk named Pelagius who had emphasized personal effort and had been in fact shocked by the sort of moral laxity was the term, the moral laxity that he found in Rome that seemed to be, that he associated with St. Augustine's theological doctrines around divine grace. So, end of this segment.